Welcome to the Midi Money Podcast. My name is Gabe Schillinger. I'm the CEO and founder of Legion Beats and the co-founder of Midi Money. And today we're going to be talking about why 99% of producers fail to actually make a living from their music and eventually give up, and how you can be part of the 1% who actually make it. Quick backstory for me, I started my music production career kind of the way that I thought you're supposed to, which was just focusing on my craft of music, just being a music producer, just making beats, just being in the studio, just holding this belief to be true that if I just got good enough at making beats, at making songs, then somebody was gonna pay me. Then the record label was gonna pay me. I was gonna get a pub deal. The right manager was gonna come along, and all I had to do was work on this craft of music. And I did that for 10 plus years. And I went into more detail on the last episode. So please check that out if you want to kind of hear that whole backstory. But ultimately, what I realized was, after over a decade of doing that and even doing okay at it, getting a couple placements, couple cool little highlights, I realized I was not on a path that was going to take me to somewhere where I was actually going to be able to do this for the rest of my life, that I was actually going to be able to make a living from this in a real way. And so I almost did what most producers do at this point, which is give up. And I was really close to giving up. In fact, I've been really close to giving up multiple times. And I'm so grateful that I didn't, because what happened next was I was like, all right, well, let me see if I can actually try selling beats online, which I wasn't all the way conscious of it at the time, but that was really the first step towards this mindset shift that I'm talking about, because that was the first step towards me actually taking some ownership, taking some responsibility for not just my craft of being a music producer, but actually being an entrepreneur and a marketer and a business owner. And so I, dipped my toe into that world the same way that pretty much every producer does, which was, all right, well, let me see what everybody else is doing. Let me put my beats on YouTube and then have a link to my beat store and hope some people buy some beats, right? Basically, that's what the game is, right? And so I did that at first, and it did okay. I got a couple sales here and there, but as you can imagine, wasn't amazing. But it did spark a little interest in me of like, well, maybe I can learn a little bit more about marketing. Maybe I can get a little bit more traffic to my beat store somehow, make a couple more dollars. And I started kind of researching and seeing what other producers were doing, and eventually came across Anno Domini beats, and I saw what he was doing was something really different. And it was really like exciting and creative, and it was something that I had never seen before. And so he became my first mentor into this new world of entrepreneurship and marketing. And then from there, learned about Russell Brunson, who became kind of my next mentor. And really what I got from those guys is two things. One is the actual specific strategies and tactics for how to build a successful business. But more importantly was this mindset shift. And that shift was that not only was marketing and business and entrepreneurship something that I might actually be good at, but that it was something that was really fun to do. That was something that I would have never imagined, a few years before that. And I think that's how most producers, most artists think, is like, I want to do my music. Like, that's what I got into. I like making beats. I like being in the studio. I don't want to make marketing campaigns or funnels or whatever that is. Like, that's not why I got into this, right? But what I learned from those guys was like, that stuff, the marketing stuff, is actually really fun too. And once I embraced that identity of not just being a music producer, but being somebody who produces traffic, who produces leads, who produces customers, who produces revenue so that I can provide for myself and my team and my family, so somebody that produces results for my fans, my followers, for the people around me, that's when things really started to shift. And really what I'm talking about there, that type of producer is essentially being an entrepreneur. And so when I combine those two things and I took that energy and creativity and passion, all that stuff that I had only put into my music before and started putting into my marketing and my business as well, that's when things really took off. And that's the big differentiator. That's the thing that I see that's the difference between the producers who eventually give up and the ones who actually get to build a business from their music that they can make a living from. Okay, so we know the solution is to not just be a music producer, but be that self-made producer, become that entrepreneur, become that marketer, that business owner, and work on that craft as well as the craft of your music, right? And that sounds cool, but like, okay, how do we actually apply that? How do we actually do this? And I've got a couple tips for you to do this. And the good news is the skills that you've already honed as a music producer actually apply directly and give you a huge advantage over all the other people who are just trying to learn how to be an entrepreneur in the first place. And the first one is being a problem solver. Now, let me give you a little example of this. Let me know if you've ever had this happen where, you've been, let's say at your house, your studio, whatever, you have a friend come over and they're like, oh, beats, cool. Let me try to make a beat, right? And they kind of like mess around for a minute and pretty quickly they get frustrated because they realize it's a little bit harder than they thought, right? And then they go and do something that's to them more fun. Now, that's actually a normal human reaction, but we're weird, right? We're different. Instead of giving up, which is, again, like what normal humans should do, we actually spend hours, days, weeks, months, years figuring out how to get good at this process, how to actually get good at making beats. And that means like, first of all, figuring out, okay, how do we download this software? How do we download our DAW? How do we install these plugins? How do we figure out how to actually make it sound good where like, the kick and the 808, are punchy and sound good together, but they're not interfering with each other. We spend hours listening to a song over and over to figure out, what's the hi-hat pattern they used, or how is it they have, 4 instruments it sounds like, and it sounds way fuller and way better than our beat that has 20. And then we try all these different things and we, troubleshoot and we, research and figure out how to do it and then keep trying, right? And so as music producers, we are familiar with this process. We're good at this process. But then something weird happens, which is we go over to try to become a marketer, to become, to build our businesses. And inevitably, you're going to run into a roadblock. You're going to run into a problem, right? I don't know. You're going to be like, well, I want this email to fire off automatically here. And the first time you try to do it, it's not going to work. And for whatever reason, so many producers, and I was guilty of this too, have the mindset of, well, this is too hard. I'm going to give up on this, or I'm just going to kind of half-ass at it, or I'm just going to go back to my comfort zone of just making beats, right? But as soon as you just make that slight mindset shift and go, wait a second, I'm a producer. Like, I solve problems. Like, I solve puzzles all day, right? And this one of, whatever, firing off an email automatically, this is just another puzzle. And as a music producer, like, I'm a professional puzzle solver. Like, this is what I do. And now all of a sudden it becomes not only like, are you going to actually get past that roadblock, but now it becomes fun of just like the process of figuring out how to make beats, which of course there's times when it's so frustrating, right? Where you're just like, God, you're just working on that snare for, hours and you're tweaking the compression, the EQ and whatever. It just doesn't quite sound right. But eventually it does. And then how good that feels, right? It's the exact same process with your business, with your entrepreneurship, with your marketing. It's the same thing. And when you can apply that mindset over there, that's when things really take off. Now, here's what's cool is once you start applying these skills, that mindset shift of being a problem solver and applying it to not just your music, but your marketing, of being creative, and applying it not just to your music, but your business and your marketing, there's actually a couple hidden side effects, some hidden benefits that you might not really think of. Now, first of all, of course, you're going to be making more money, which is great, which means you're going to actually be able to, make a living from what you love. So that's pretty good by itself. But another one that's really cool is that you'll actually enjoy the process. And this part is so important. I mean, if you think about it, like anything that I've ever gotten really good at, it's pretty much always something that I enjoy doing. Because if I don't enjoy doing it, then I'm not going to stick with it long enough to get good at it, right? Just like, what I was talking about before with the marketing, like if as soon as I run into some little issue, I get frustrated and I say, I hate this, like eventually I'm going to give up, and I'm probably going to give up pretty quickly. But when I start enjoying that process, now I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to keep enjoying doing it to where I'm going to actually get really good at it. And since your job as a music producer is not just to be producing music, but be that self-made producer, when you're doing both those parts of your job and you actually really love both those parts of your job, like I do and like so many other producers who are now kind of learning about this process do, now every day you go to work and it's great. It's fun. Like, it's not just like, okay, I love making music and now I have to do this marketing thing. It's like, no, I love this marketing thing and I love this music thing and I get to do both these things every day. Now, there's another hidden benefit to this whole process that actually might be the most important, the most fulfilling one, which is that every time that you level up in your business, you actually level up as a person and as a human. And here's what I mean by that. Like, in order to get to the next level in my business, every time I've actually had to become a different person. I know that sounds kind of weird, but so for example, I'm somebody who's like super introverted, shy, awkward. I am not a person who gets on camera and speaks in front of people. I'm not somebody for sure who gets on stage and speaks in front of people. Like that's just not who I am, or at least that's not who I was. But I realized a few years ago that with Legion Beats, if I wanted that to get to that next level, I needed to show my face on camera, right? So then I became the person who does that. And the way that I did that was just by doing it over and over and being like, okay, well, what would somebody who does get on camera do? Well, I guess they just keep getting on camera and keep practicing it. And at first it was horrible. It was awkward. It was terrible. And like to this day, it's still kind of awkward and bad, right? But I'm getting better, right? This is a skill that I'm honing. And for sure, if you look at trust me, hey, if you think this is rough, go check out some of my videos from a year or two ago. Like so bad, right? So I've become a person who is able to do this, right? Who gets on camera, right? Another example, sort of in that same vein, is like I was invited to speak at Funnel Hacking Live, which is one of the biggest marketing conferences in the world. And at that event, there's like 5,000 entrepreneurs, and there's people speaking at that event like Russell Brunson and Frank Kern and Tony Robbins and like the top entrepreneurs in the world, right? So this was not an opportunity that I was going to pass up. But I am not the kind of person who can get on stage and speak to 5,000 people. Like literally, 6 months before I actually did that, if you put me on stage in front of 5,000 people, I literally would not have physically been able to speak. Like I would have been too anxious, right? So I joined Toastmasters. I got on every little stage I possibly could. I practiced and practiced. And eventually, just in time, basically before that event, I became somebody who could get on stage for a half hour in front of 5,000 people and teach and inspire those people. Now, I was not that person before that, but I had to become that person as my business developed in order to get to that next level. And so that's just one of those things where like, as you go through this process of working on your business, on your marketing, on your entrepreneurship, what's cool is you as a person will develop, and the people around you, your family, your loved ones, like they get to get the benefits of that as well. So that's part of what makes this process not only like, are you going to be able to make money, right? But you're also going to enjoy this process more. And what's really cool is you're going to be more fulfilled, and you're actually going to develop as a person in ways that you might not have thought were possible before. I know that's what it was for me. And like, honestly, like I love hearing from producers and seeing producers who say like, hey, you taught me this strategy, this tactic, and now I'm making, this amount of money. So that's really the big difference between the producers who, make it, who can do this for a living, and the ones who don't, the ones who take on that identity of the self-made producer, of the entrepreneur, not just the music producer. And there's so many benefits of that. Like, obviously, yes, being able to make more money, of course, being able to do this for a living, yes. But even, enjoying that process more and developing as a person more. Like that's such, it's something that I never thought about. Like it was just like, I don't know, I just want to figure out how to make a living from my music production, but now it's turned into this thing that's even more fulfilling, and I get the benefit of that as I evolve as a person. The people around me, my family, my loved ones, my friends, everybody, like it makes this journey have so much more meaning. So now not only do I enjoy this process more, but I also attach more meaning to it, and I get, an even deeper level of result from it. And I love hearing from producers who let me know like, hey, I learned this strategy, this tactic from you, and now I'm generating this much revenue. Like that's awesome. I love seeing that. But I think the ones that honestly get me even more excited and inspired are when producers reach out to me and say, hey, like something that I learned from you, it actually changed my mindset. It made me enjoy marketing for the first time. It made me approach my business from a whole different way that changed my business and ultimately changed my life. Like, those are the messages that I love getting. So if this episode or something else has ever had that effect on you, please let me know. Hit me up on Instagram at Legion Gabe. Better yet, do me a favor, and please, if you got any benefit from this, head over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, like it, and subscribe, and tell a friend, tell a producer who might get some value from this too. I'd really appreciate that. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do, if you'd like to work more closely with me and the Midi Money community and the coaches and the team and all that good stuff, head over to midimoney.com/go.